Hello lads, some pillow talk here. I want to reflect on a few things regarding just the current state of the op. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to mention it by name, but you know the thing that began in March of 2020, and then sort of got a new incarnation with the Baj coming in 2021, and then kind of ceased to be around right around February 24th or 25th of 2022, the exact date when Russia invaded Ukraine, and that became the thing. You know, I was listening to some comedian who's a guy who's pretty funny. I followed him on Instagram, and then my Instagram thing got all shaken up, and now I can't remember his name. So he's not a high profile comedian, but he's somebody that I saw and I liked his jokes. And he had one joke that he made where I know the intention behind it, even though the actual joke itself, if you don't take into account the intention that he was going for, you might think that it's it reflects it makes him out to be a shit lib or something, or who's making fun of Republicans, but it's not. It's really not. What he says is, after something like this, he says, after all the time, all the things we were divided on, I thought that the virus was going to bring us together, and then and it did for about a month, and then somebody said the virus is a Democrat, and then we were suddenly divided on that. But I think what he meant wasn't to take shots at anybody, but just to talk about how the thing that he would have thought anyway would be a nonpartisan thing, would be a thing that would bring us together, turned out to be the exact opposite. And for me, early on, I was always against it. I was always a skeptic, and I know I've said this many times before, and I'm honestly not saying it to boast, or to talk about how prescient I am, or anything like that. I think it just kind of aligns with, I was always a skeptic, I was always a cynic, I was always questioning it, and part of it is just, I think where it hit me, was, oh, you got to do this, or we're going to guilt trip you. You got to do that, or we're going to guilt trip you. That never sat well with me, not from the very start, and so I was already inclined, because of my contrarian nature, to just think this is being blown out of proportion. This is being since this is a psyop, was just what I thought from the very start, from the very beginning of it all. But what I didn't see happening, and this is what makes me think of the comedian again that I just mentioned a couple minutes ago. What I didn't see happening was, I didn't, when I was feeling skeptical, and also when it was like this lockdown that they've imposed that's severely open-ended, that it was milder in my state than most places, and we opened up here in Georgia pretty quickly, after just a couple months, but just, it was so distressing, it was so disheartening, it was so demoralizing, just to think we'd seated somehow we had all ceded our sovereignty to these entities that are, that had unilaterally all decided the same thing in the same way, and they were going to see to it that that everything stayed that way. It seemed like forever. I mean, the fact that there was no end in sight, and that they wanted to just keep the world shut down for as long as they could. I could tell that was the end game, and it was so frustrating, and agonizing, and enraging. But I honestly didn't think of it like in March and even into April, or maybe into April, you started to see partisan lines forming, because I think it was in April that there were the first protests, the first end the lockdown protests that started taking place in certain states, in certain other countries, but before that, I thought this seems to be nonpartisan. This seems to be something that they're all united against. They're all united in the same way, but in a bad way, right? It's not like the comedian was saying, this is bringing us together. This is good vibes, because we're all coming together to face this crisis, and it's making us feel a bond to one another. It's more like this is the excuse they've got to put their boot on our neck and keep it there for as long as they see fit. But I didn't think to myself, people who are on the right, people who are conservative, as I think of myself, I have considered myself to be on the right. I've considered myself to be a conservative thinker for, a long time, for most of my life. But if somehow things had broken differently, and for whatever reason, the conservatives, the right-winger types, had been the ones to say, we've got to continue this, we've got to stay with the lockdown, and don't it's unpatriotic to protest the lockdown. Kind of the line that a lot of conservatives had about the war in Iraq, and about the war in terror during the 00s in general, which I was never keen on. I think if that had happened, I wouldn't, I wouldn't have cared. I would. It's not like I would have said to myself, "Oh, well, I'm conservative, and these people," and now it's emerging that conservatives are the ones who are the most pro-lockdown, and liberals are actually out there wanting this to end. I would be with the liberals in that case. I would have aligned myself with the liberals, and I would have said, I don't freaking care if people think I'm doing some disservice to conservatism, and I'm supposed to be a conservative, but I'm taking the opposite stand of what conservatives are taking. That wouldn't have bothered me at all. I would, it just so happened that eventually the battle lines got drawn when people on the right, it was mostly people on the right who questioned this entire enterprise, questioned the lockdowns, questioned the muzzles, questioned the Baj, and people forget a lot of things, and it wasn't even that long ago. People forget that Joe Biden said, expressed doubt, cast aspersions on what he called Trump's vaccine, quote unquote, and other lefties did as well. But it was never a partisan thing for me. It was always just about seeing something that was a clear and present instance of much of the world just tumbling into tyranny, and people not even putting up a fight about it, and just the campaigns of guilt and blame that were so shamelessly deployed were just as well. I mean, I've already stated my thoughts on all of that. But what I'm seeing happening now is there's increasing openness to being critical of everything that went on back in 2020 and 2021. There's this tendency now for stuff to come out, and it is coming out, and various media outlets are saying these things. They're saying that and who I'm talking about, I guess it's mostly, it's some people on the left, not the establishment left, but more like the Bernie Sanders or left, the dirtbag left, who are now like you go to various sites on the internet where it's like people who would consider themselves to the left of the Biden regime. They're saying, "Ooh, look at this," and "Ooh, look at that," and these the CDC steered us wrong. Fauci steered us wrong. What revelations these are. That they pushed this stuff on us, and it turned out that they were that all of this stuff was just a farce. Everything from the Bosch to the masks to what have you, the lockdowns. Now they're saying it, and a bunch of people are saying these things now. But there has been no I came to Jesus. I realized this, and I'm sorry for the way that I carried on before, because now you have people, and it's like I'm thinking of the what's the name of the show? Is it The Hill? They have a YouTube channel, and Crystal Ball, and some kind of, I guess, an Indian American looking guy. I can't think of their names right now, but they're paradigmatic in a way, because they were, during the time of all of this, they were all very pro everything. And I'm not British, but I don't think the Telegraph, which is now putting forth these incredible exposés, saying, here's the way Matt Hancock and other politicians behaved. Isn't it appalling what they did to the country, and that they forced people out of their jobs, and they forced schools to close, and and they intentionally carried forth this campaign of fear. Isn't that appalling? And it's like, wait a minute. It's good that y'all are doing this now, don't get me wrong, but I missed where you made the transition. I missed that. I didn't see that happen. I didn't see you guys who were all gung-ho behind the establishment, behind the medical establishment, behind the governmental establishment, behind the corporate establishment. Now you've suddenly, now you're suddenly putting out these exposés, and it's great that you are. But if you were honest, you would honestly admit that you had been wrong at the time. We're seeing people make these seamless transitions, right? From being being in lockstep with the entire op to now, challenging it now that it's no longer even an op. Now that we've moved on to other stuff, to other ops. If it's not the Ukraine op, it's the UFO op, or the we're gonna poison Middle America op, ruin the food chain op, everything else. You know what I'm talking about. But so many of these people are now saying the right thing, and people are just the people who were always for it, who always felt that way, are saying, yeah, good, I like that you're saying this, but I don't remember hearing where they had, when did they come to Jesus and flip-flop and realize that it was all bullshit? When did that happen? I don't recall that. I don't recall that moment. And, I mean, to be honest, it just sort of kills me that nobody's going to go down for this, when there are numerous people who should be hanged for this. Metaphorically speaking, of course. YouTube. I mean that metaphorically. They should be metaphorically hanged from the neck until dead. They should be metaphorically put before a metaphorical firing squad and shot until dead. More metaphorically dead, I mean. I know I got impatient with people who were, and included probably some of y'all, who were saying Woody Harrelson, yeah, well, he was probably just paid to say that on national television, but and I actually do think in his case that he snuck it in, and that he has a history of anti-establishment thought on this particular matter anyhow. So I actually think for him it was authentic, but in a broader sense, I could, and then that's just my thought, that's just my assessment. I could be wrong, of course. I don't know him. I don't know Woody Harrelson. I don't know any famous people. I sort of knew, when I was a kid, I sort of knew the sister of one of the two Indigo Girls. But I think that's the closest I've gotten to being acquainted with people who are famous. Anyhow, it just seems like, what people are just going to have. They're not going to. They already have made this seamless transition from, oh, well, that was then, this is now, and even Glenn Greenwald, even, I shouldn't say even Glenn Greenwald, because he's one of the good guys as far as this goes, but he had a post up reminding people of the absurdity of how the same people who are saying stay home, if you get together with a bunch of people, it's a super spreader event, and you're being so irresponsible and you're killing grandmothers left and right. But then the George Floyd protests / riots started happening, and these same people were saying, well, no, it's okay, it's good to meet with a ton of other people in close proximity and march for a righteous cause. But of course, if you're out protesting the lockdowns, that's bad. But if you're protesting what the police supposedly did to George Floyd, the injustice that supposedly happened there, and maybe really did happen, I don't know. I don't know the facts of the case. I don't know the facts on the ground. I don't know if what they tell us is true or not. But the point is, it suddenly became okay to meet with a bunch of people, and most everybody in the thread of that, because they follow Glenn Greenwald, and so they think like him. They were saying, yeah, that was my moment. That was my big wake up call. But then you had some people saying, come on, Glenn, that was 3 years ago. Move on. So I think I'm going to bring this topic to a close, but I'll continue it later. Thanks for watching.